Anyway, they are running the camera at the moment.
Yeah.
They take about 10 seconds to be used as cutaways along the line, wherever the editor.
The mood in surplus states of Punjab and Haryana is quite different from a deficit state like Bihar or Assam or Orissa. Similarly, the mood in Andhra is very different from the mood in Kerala. Mood in a prosperous city like Bombay is very different from not so prosperous city of Calcutta anymore. But and then you must also remember that right now a major shift has taken place in the terms of trade between urban India and rural India as a result of the rise in prices of food. So a massive shift of money is taking place from the urban centers to the rural centers, which means that the peasantry is far more prosperous than it has been for a long time. Of course, there are areas of discontent in rural society, like the Harijans, like the landless, and there are areas of discontent, particularly in deficit states or in deficit areas like eastern UP, like Bihar, Assam, Orissa, Kerala, parts of Gujarat in the tribal belt. But one can say that by and large, the rural India is fairly quiet and quiescent. Even in urban India, the most adversely affected classes are people with fixed incomes, whether they are government employees, whether they are private sector employees, whether they are ordinary workers, whether they are white collar workers, and there is a great deal of discontent among this class of people, and among those people who make their living by casual work, who are, they are also badly affected by the rise of in the prices of food. And one can say that the mood is varied. I mean, it will not be. Moreover, there are two aspects of the Indian situation which everyone, both at home and abroad, should, in my opinion, bear in mind. One is the massive population explosion. From the time of independence in 1947 till now, we have witnessed a rise of about 230 to 40 million people in this country. It is the size of Britain, France, Germany, Holland, Belgium, Luxembourg, Switzerland, Sweden put together. The rise, the increase in the population of India. So, in any situation, we would have been in an extremely, bad way economically with this kind of expansion of population or population explosion. The second factor, which in my opinion needs to be borne in mind, is the expansion in education. I mean, if it was purely a question of expanding education, one could probably cope with it. But along with the expansion has taken place sharp deterioration in the standards of education. So now we produce year after year millions of students, graduates, undergraduates, matriculates, who are not only unemployed but unemployable. They are trained only to be clerks, and that also they do not make now good clerks. They are not trained for any profession, they are not trained for any business, they are not trained for any craft. And this is one of the worst things that we have done to ourselves in the last 27 years of independence, that we have not made any serious effort to modify the system of education and relate it to our needs or to our capacity. Now we produce, our elite institutions like the institutes of technology or like some select colleges or select universities produce some very capable boys and girls who are as good as the best anywhere in the world, or at least the second best anywhere in the world, and they go abroad and do remarkably well. They do remarkably well even at home in institutes like the Bhabha Research Institute or the Atomic Energy Commission, or in major firms, or in certain even in certain public sector undertakings or private undertakings. But the general level of education in India has gone down pretty badly. And now if you take these two factors, that is the population explosion and the education explosion, along with the deterioration in the quality of education, then you would realize that we would have been in a difficult situation whatever we had done. But since we have not managed our problems really as effectively as we could. But mind you, when we make this criticism, we should also bear in mind that we have done remarkably well. Now, for example, not only in the 40s, but till the end of the 50s and even in the 60s, everywhere one went abroad, one was asked the question whether India would last. India as a country, as a society. Because it was believed everywhere that India is an extremely divided country, divided by language, by caste, by religion, and that it would fall apart. I mean, it is a tribute to the skill of our political leadership that we have produced a sense of solidarity. Not only that we have maintained unity, but we have produced an increasing sense of solidarity, with the result that problems of one part of the country are regarded as problems of the whole of India. So when we make criticism about the political leadership or even official bureaucratic leadership, we should bear in mind that they have achieved a lot. Only the problems have been very, very enormous, and the skills have been limited, particularly at the lower levels.
What's gone wrong? Is the present discontent the result of government deficiencies, or are these problems outside the government's control?
You know, to a large extent, I have already answered your question. That is, the government could have done better. For example, I believe that if the government had not gone in for this, what I regard as fake radicalism, particularly since the nationalization of banks in 1969, then the economic situation would have been much better. I believe that one of the greatest mistakes that the government of India made in recent years was to curb the production of what they call monopoly houses. Big business houses in any country are pioneering houses. They do the pioneering work, they bring in new technology, they bring in new managerial skills, new managerial techniques. Their products are far better in quality. Their prices in course of time will be cheaper if they are not already cheaper, because they have the advantage of economies of scale. And any consumer really wants to buy products of a reputed house rather than the products of, unknown houses.
Again, this is again for cutaway purposes, and they're taking your shots. It's very important. For various purposes, which they can insert wherever they like.
It was a great mistake, in my opinion, for the government of India to have placed restrictions on these houses. A number of other things were done. For example, the prohibition on donations by companies. And a general climate was created, which in my opinion has bred a lot of evil practices and strengthened parallel economy rather than the regular economy. I believe personally that the government has realized its mistake and is trying to correct it.
What do you see?
Thank you.
Mr. Jain, how would you describe the mood in India today? What are the major criticisms leveled against the government? How much weight do you attach to the accusations of official corruption and inefficiency? What's gone wrong? Is the present discontent the result of government deficiencies, or are these problems outside the government's control? What do you see as the first priorities in dealing with India's problems? Do you think the government can, in fact, solve problems of this kind by its own efforts? That's all. Mr. Jain, how would you describe the mood in India today? What are the major criticisms leveled against the government? How much weight do you attach to the accusations of official corruption and inefficiency? What's gone wrong in the present? I'll have to do that again. What's gone wrong? Is the present discontent the result of government deficiencies, or are these problems outside the government's control? What do you see as the first priorities in dealing with India's problems? Do you think the government can, in fact, solve problems of this kind by its own efforts? Thank you.
अपने तकलीफ़ें हैं जो गरीबी और आर्थिक पिछड़ेपन के हैं। कुछ के तो खैर हम कहते कि इतनी बड़ी जनता में 1 करोड़ और क्या है, लेकिन वो आस्ते आस्ते नहीं आए, वो तो रातों रात आए। तो उनको खिलाना और देखभाल करनी, ये इसमें बहुत ज़बरदस्त चाहते हैं, लेकिन जो तसल्ली या संतोष नहीं है, लेकिन हमें समझना चाहिए कि कभी कभी ऐसा एक खाते हैं वहाँ बहुत कुछ ठीक होता है और बीच में कहीं कहीं गलतियाँ और कमियाँ भी होती हैं, और जहाँ भी गलती हुई या कमी हुई उसको कमी को पूरा करना है, गलती को सुधारना है, इसमें तो कोई शक नहीं है। लेकिन क्या हो रहा है, एक ज़बरदस्त आंदोलन चला, मैंने सुना कुछ नारे भी उठाए जाते हैं कि जैसे थोड़ा बहुत तो खैर जमा करना ही पड़ता है किसी भी पार्टी को, और सब पार्टी करती है। आपको इतना झट से देनी चाहिए, जब भी हमको सामान बाजार में न मिले तो अपने घर
camera, because that would make it look very natural. Mr. Jain, how would you describe the mood in India today?
You know, India is a very large country. India is a subcontinent. And I think it is quite a mistake to talk of anything like a national mood. It is an extremely difficult situation, more difficult than India has ever faced before. But the response to it is very different in different parts of the country. For example, fair in my opinion to draw a kind of a general picture and say that there's a mood of grimness and bitterness in India. On the whole, I would say that the people in India are not as cheerless as the outsider might think, and they are determined to somehow manage in this extremely difficult situation.